With the return of the soldiers, changes were on the horizon in Jamestown baseball. Harry Bisgeier, the owner of the Jamestown franchise for 6 seasons, sold out to John Jachym. John Jachym was a native of South Dayton. He'd graduated from the University of Missouri in 1940 with a degree in journalism and later worked as a reporter in the UPI in Jefferson City, Missouri. It is there his paths crossed with Branch Rickey. He then entered the service as a Marine and was decorated for the battle at Guadalcanal and was awarded the Silver Star. As he returned from the Marines, an opportunity presented itself. Let John explain. And I got to ask 2 quick questions for the video so I can clear it up. Our history of professional baseball. You bought the Jamestown franchise from Harry
Bisgeier.
Do you remember how much you paid for it?
Yeah, $22,500. And I bought a bus because we didn't have a bus. He had 2 station wagons. So I really had, I think I had about $30,000 in it, outside the 22. The only aside, Harry Bisgeier agreed to sell the ball club for me for $20,000, and I agreed. And I was still in the Marine Corps when I came back from Washington. And then he said, well, here's an eager man. So he said, I've changed my mind. He said, I need $22,500. And he said, you know, I told you I would accept certain ball players. You can have all the ball players. I said, why? He said, well, we're getting ball players out right here. Everyone who's in the service, so you can have them. I said, well, Harry, you're right. I want to buy the ball club. So I gave him the $22,500. There's a ball player named Lyle Parkhurst, who was a local boy, a very crafty left-handed pitcher. He was a mature boy when he was 16. And so I get all the ball players. I'm still in the Marine Corps. I get a wire. Parker's drafted by Montreal. In those days, that's $1,200. So I got $1,200, and I sold 2 players. So I got the $2,250. So it's still $20,000. May 1st, 1946, the first game since the end of the war, saw 5,162 fans. This was the largest opening day crowd in the history of Jamestown. Peacetime revival had occurred. Jamestowners were eager for baseball, unrestrained by the tentacles of war. From the ashes of a war-laden year came the 1946 Baseball Club. Peacetime baseball came back to Jamestown, read the Post-Journal, for the first time since 1941, and brought out the largest opening day crowd in the history of Municipal Stadium. A.B. Happy Chandler, the High Commissioner Baseball, who made baseball history by attending his first Class D opener in Jamestown, sounded the keynote of what most of the fans were thinking when he declared in speaking at the pregame ceremonies, "We owe gratitude to God that we are safely through the war ordeal. We should dedicate this season in baseball in memory of those who died and those so crippled they will never play baseball again."
My contract with the Tigers, they were worried that, you know, they were going to, because new owner, you know, and all that. And I wasn't going to upset anything like that. So I said, I'd like to have you come down and play. They were Rose champions in the exhibition game. And, and I got to know Steve O'Neill real well. You know who they pitched against us? Newhouser and Greenberg went to the All-Star game. They pitched Trucks, Trout, and Hutchinson. Next day they played Williamsport. They owned the Williamsport franchise. And that was in the Pennsylvania-New York League, you know, what was called then, in Class A. And they pitched Overmeyer. They pitched 3, like Scribini's, you know. And they gave us the 3 best pitchers.
Oh,
you know.
wow.
Well, we had.
The Post-Journal heralded the extraordinary news of the world champion Detroit Tigers take their Western New York baseball spotlight to Municipal Stadium for a 9-inning exhibition game with the Jamestown Falcons. And who are the Tigers that are coming to entertain the folks at Municipal Stadium?
The Tigers, Skeeter Webb, shortstop. Eddie Mayo, second base. Roger Kramer, center field. Hank Greenberg, left field. Roy Cullenbine, right field. Rudy York, first base. Jimmy Outlaw, third base. Paul Richards, catching.
Mr. Jachym said the Detroit Tigers brought in their 3 top hurlers to pitch against Jamestown. Virgil Trucks, who during the 1945 World Series won one of the games. Freddie Hutchinson, who was one of their star pitchers and who would later become a successful Major League manager. Pitcher was Paul Dizzy Trout, and clearly became the crowd favorite. The Post-Journal said prior to his arrival, if he had time and they had the inclination, some local civic organization would probably land Dizzy Trout, Tiger Mondays, to make an after-dinner talk when he comes to town and when he comes to Jamestown. For Paul is one of the best speech makers in the majors and is much in demand in Detroit, where he makes his home. And he did not disappoint. Manager Marv Olson announced that he would start the regular Falcon lineup, which included third baseman Orv Cott, pitcher Swat Erickson, and pitcher Tommy Hurst.
Yeah.
Tell me about Detroit. Was that when Dizzy Trout was here?
Yes.
All right. Explain to me.
He was really comical. He'd sit on the third base dugout there, and then he was sign the autographs, and he, you know how it was always signed?
Yeah.
He'd draw a trout. And he'd put his name in there. He was really comical.
There was also a sign in left field, Tom, or left center. It was upside down, if you recall, and he stood on his head out there, like he was reading it.
Yeah.
Was that a big crowd that night?
Very big.
They stand in the outfield. Well, they had over 5,000, I think it was.
Oh my gosh.
But they, I remember that game. They wanted to beat us, and they did beat us. What, they beat us 10-5 or something? They threw Virgil Trucks at us, then Freddie Hutchison, and then Dizzy Trout.
Three pretty big names.
Yeah, well, Trucks could throw pretty hard, and then Hutchison was a
mediocre
change of pace pitcher, and then they brought in Trout, and he looked about twice as fast when they brought him.
I remember I was there the night that the Tigers played. That was an exciting time for a young ball player.
Is that the Dizzy Trout?
The Dizzy, yes. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have 2 memories of that. I can remember that Dizzy Trout struck Clem Koshorik out with a rosin bag. The crowd went crazy.
The Tigers did beat the Falcons 15-3 before 5,600 people. Dizzy Trout kept the stands in an uproar before the game with his wandering antics and was still in a happy mood when he took the hill.
My dad and I were leaving the stadium in the car, and the door burst open. I had no idea what was happening. And it was Dizzy Trout wanting a ride uptown. And we got, I think, out on Faulkner Street heading for uptown, and he saw somebody else. And he said, "Thank you," and he jumped out of the car and went, I don't know, was it one of the other ball players walking or just exactly what it was, but yeah, a short time that he was riding in the back of the car.
It's the 3 best pitchers.
Oh,
you know.
wow.
Well, we had 5,000 for that game, and we had 5,000 for the opener, so we had 10,000 in 2 ball games.
After it was all said and done, it was Frank Hyde, the sports editor, who put it best. He said that this pudgy one has taken a few verbal chops at the Falcon head office from time to time and will likely take a few more, but we'd like to add a bouquet for our part given to President Jachym for the extent to which he had a hand in bringing the Detroit Tigers to our doorstep. And for Jamestown, we're glad Detroit came to town in 1946.